Longhorn pride has taken a huge hit in recent years. MarkRogersTV looking at Texas football, and will the Longhorns bounce back strong in 2014, as in Charlie Strong. This Texas football program, since taking on Alabama at the Rose Bowl for the BCS Championship in 2009, has basically been a 500 team. 5-7 in 2010, and basically a 500 team if you add up the wins and losses since then. Maybe a bit better than the break-even mark. 8-5 last season, and it was not a pretty 8-5 for Texas. This is a blue blood of college football. We're supposed to be talking about the top of the Big 12, if not the top of college football. But again, 500 for a considerable length of time. 4 seasons, 2010 through 13. Will they come back and take up their rightful place, they would think, Texas people would think, in the Big 12 and in the nation? Well, it's going to be a struggle, you would think, in Charlie Strong's first year at Texas. They start off with North Texas, counted up as a win. It's got to be a win. It should be a win. It has to be a win for Charlie Strong. Okay, the next 2 weeks are huge for this football program and the psyche of this team. First against BYU on September 6th. BYU manhandled Texas, and that's difficult to conceive, that a program that's considered, not necessarily, but considered and traditionally a finesse team, not a power team, manhandled, physically beat up Texas, especially on offense. The offensive line blew out Texas, blew out the front seven, and rushed for over 300 yards in the first half of that football game, and again, embarrassed Texas on the road. Texas gets BYU in Austin. Forget the records and the rankings and the ramifications there. Just in terms of psyche, this is a huge game for the Longhorns in catapulting them to possibly a better season than expected. Then they've got UCLA the next week. Not expected to win that one. UCLA, the darlings of college football in the offseason. They seem to be the chic pick of college football fans and pundits, media alike. Love this football team and what Jim Moore has done in Westwood. They're the 7th ranked team in the preseason coaches poll, and it's UCLA and Texas. So Texas not given a chance unless UCLA completely implodes the first couple weeks of the season, but we would expect the Bruins to win this game, although they're going to have to travel from the West Coast, and Texas does have the athletes to compete. Do they have the confidence? Well, that's going to depend, you would think, on how they play against BYU. So that BYU win or loss could really have trickle-down effect for the rest of the season. So it's BYU and UCLA the next 2 weeks in weeks 2 and 3. Then I love the Big 12 schedule, and I know that the Big 12 is not fared well in the ramifications and the effects of all this expansion around college football. Texas A&M and Missouri left, Colorado left, Colorado left to the Pac-12, and basically they picked up TCU to try to get back to 10 teams and maintain a conference because it was touch and go there for a few months for Big 12 football. They don't have a championship game. They are considered at this point, most people believe that if there's a tie of sorts among conference champions, that the Big 12 could be left out unless possibly with Oklahoma starting off at number 3. Otherwise, that the Big 12 could be left out because of the no conference championship game, and the Big 12 has not been extremely strong in recent years. But I love the schedule, and I know it's not by design, but the Big 12 actually has the most legitimate championship, despite not having a title game, has the most legitimate championship because everybody plays everybody. So you don't have to question the conference schedule. And so once Texas gets by North Texas, BYU, and UCLA, it's all Big 12, and everybody plays everybody. That's the most fair way to do it. So it's Kansas on the road. It's a huge game against Baylor at home, and they've actually got Baylor and Oklahoma back-to-back. Now, the Sooners had the great season at 11-2. It finished strong with Oklahoma State and Alabama wins in the Sugar Bowl. But the Red River rivalry last year went to Texas in a huge way over Oklahoma, so the Sooners could want some huge payback. That game, of course, in Dallas, Texas. Okay, then they've got Iowa State, Kansas State, Texas Tech, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, and TCU. Okay, Texas should lose to Oklahoma and Baylor. We would think if the chalk holds, they lose those 2 games. They defeat most of the rest of the Big 12, but the toss-up games appear to be Kansas State on the road, Texas Tech on the road, TCU at home to finish the season, and the week before that, the game against Oklahoma State, that game at Stillwater. So this Texas team looks like another 7-5 football team, because I would expect they're going to lose to UCLA, Baylor, and Oklahoma. I would be a little shocked, not completely stunned, but pretty surprised if they win one of those 3 games. So that's 3 losses right there. And then again, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, TCU, those are toss-up games. And let's say they split those games, that comes out to 7-5. I think Charlie Strong is hoping for much better than 7-5. I think 9-3, depending on how the 9-3 shakes out, but 9-3 would be a huge success for this football team based on how this program's performed over the last 4 years. All right, there's still huge interest in Texas football, regardless of what's happened since 2010. This is Texas, so let's talk about the Longhorns. They're still a major player. They are still relevant. It's not been that long since they were a major factor in the top 5. So let's talk some Texas football in the Big 12 right here on Mark Rogers TV.